The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
All right, I'd like to welcome everyone back to the KevCAM night class tonight. Tonight have Daniel Roberts on the phone with us to help you guys without any questions or concerns, but I think he is having some audio issues, so we may not even hear from him tonight. And of course, our one and only famous Greg Payton to make sure I'm staying on topic for you guys. Greg, are you with us?
Good evening, everybody.
All right, so I do see a lot of new names in here, which I love seeing this. And so I'll just kind of go through some quick housekeeping. Right now, we are using GoToWebinar, obviously, but it does put everyone on mute just to eliminate any background noise. If you guys do have questions, definitely there's a questions panel. Definitely feel free to ask those at any time, and Greg or Daniel will stop me in my tracks, and we can get your questions addressed right away. This is not I'm going to read a script. This is totally off the cuff, and we want to keep this low key as possible and have fun with you guys while teaching some new stuff. For those of you that are new, every night class is recorded. So if you guys are looking for previous night classes, you guys can go over to the YouTube and type in SolidCAM University, and you'll see all our videos that we do in here. We have some short 30-minute ones that we've started now, which is called SolidCAM Live at 2 p.m. Central Time every day, as well as tips and tricks, as well as live cuts. So a lot of information in here for everyone to go from. And if you guys are looking for the new SolidCAM Live classes, you guys can make sure you're get to the American flag. And it is going to be under webinars, upcoming webinars, and then you can sign up right here. So you can see tomorrow, and this will be the same link for every day at 2 p.m. 1 p.m. Eastern, I'm sorry, I said that completely wrong. 1 p.m. Central Time, 2 p.m. Eastern Time. So, all right, with that being said, we will get the ball rolling on what's new in SolidCAM 2020 iMachining. So the first thing, don't have a whole lot new in here, but there is some really cool features that they added in there. Ronnie Kidder's been doing a lot of complaining, so we always bow down to Ronnie and get anything that he wants added in there. I'm just kidding, Ronnie. So our first one is the new 3D positioning. Now, what 3D positioning does is it takes the path or the technology that was in 3D iMachining, and we're now able to pull this over into 2D iMachining. And I'll show you a couple examples, but going forward, anytime you start a new iMachining operation, this will be selected for you. But what I want to do is I program this part prior to 2020, and so we can kind of see what's going on. So our first one, we are working on the outside. So let me just open up this operation. Now, with this new 3D positioning, it is only going to work on the feature recognition ones. So that's going to be our feature recognition by face, feature recognition by chain, as well as outside feature recognition. The 3D positioning will not work with the traditional way right here. So let's get our part up in here, and we can see that we have a couple movements going up and down in here. This one isn't too bad, but let's see what the 3D positioning can do for us. So this will be located in the links section of your dialog, and it's set to 3D positioning. So let me just kind of get we can see we're kind of hopping up 1, 2, let's see, well, we got a couple lines going up and down here. So let's turn on 3D positioning now. Save and calculate. And now you'll see that it eliminated those positions. So what it's doing is it's, instead of coming up to the clearance, it's going to do a high feed move around the outside of your part. So let's take a look at another one here. Now, any parts that you guys created prior to 2020, you will have to come in here and turn this feature on. So as, like I said, any new operations you have going forward, we'll have this already on, but any legacy parts from 2019 or older that you open up, you will have to come in here and turn this on. So over here, we have a couple different things going on. We have iMachining based off of faces, and we have two separate faces. Now, I do have finishing turned on, so we're going to be doing a little bit of bouncing back and forth. But now, if I come over here to my link section, turn on 3D positioning, save and calculate here. Now, you can see that we have just one move in and one move out. My other toolpath is calculating here. Get this turned off once it's done. Slide this over. So now we have one path going down, and what it's doing is it's doing that high feed position, working its way around the part instead of going up, over, and down and going back and forth. So this is completely up to you guys, but it's a great new feature, especially when you're doing roughing and finishing all with the same tool. So eliminate a lot of that retract and utilize kind of staying in place before. So we'll do roughing, finishing, and come over here, do a roughing and finishing that way. So let's take a peek at this operation. In here, we have an internal pocket based off of the face recognition. You can see we have quite a few movements going up and down all the way around this part, especially when it gets into the tight corners for the DSOT tricoidal, and then it's switching over, then it jumps over to the other region. So we can turn on our 3D positioning, save and calculate here. And now you can see one entry in and one entry out. So it really minimizes that up and down movement. Any questions with the 3D positioning? I'll go ahead and turn it on for this last one here.
Not seeing any questions coming through, Kevin.
Perfect.
I think people are.
I know Ronnie.
Pretty decent handle on it.
I know Ronnie fell out of his chair when he seen this.
Oh, maybe that's what it is. He's still trying to get back to the keyboard.
Okay, so our last operation, just doing islands with open edges, doing a roughing and finishing all with one tool. Turn on our 3D positioning, save and calculate. And now we're keeping that tool down in Z. So the nice thing about this too is if you guys do have a fixture or something like that, it knows, iMachining knows that there's a fixture there and it will avoid that fixture. So, you know, if you guys are looking at this part and let's say we had a clamp right here in the middle, well, it's going to wipe out my clamp now. That's not the case. That is all set up. If you do have a fixture, the fixture protection is turned on, so it will not go through that fixture at all. Okay. Now, another, I think, me personally, one of the coolest things that they've added in with iMachining now is the iMachining database. So let's go ahead and open up our database. In the past, our post-processor and our iMachining database were basically two separate areas, and the iMachining database was not talking to the post-processor or vice versa. The only time that we would see it is if we had a wrong feed rate for our machine ID, and we go to calculate it and G-code it if we had a feed too large or a spin too fast. So what we'd have to do is come in here and change it up. Now, what you can set up in here, we scroll all the way up to the top. I'm just gonna get these back up here. So we still have our defined by machines, but now they have installed in there defined by a VMID file. So for this to work, all you have to do is right click and say new machine, and we can go to inch, and you'll see that it's looking for my feed max, my reposition feed rate, and my Z, all that. So if I come in here, and what you have to do is, it is case sensitive, is type in exactly what you're seeing over here. And then what it will do is it will input those values based off of the post that Greg has set up for you guys and bring that in there. So let's go ahead and do gmil underscore 5x underscore, and I know I already have one in there, but pause underscore UM. And if you have a really long post name, then you can yell at Greg for that. Right, Greg?
Yeah.
Okay. So now I have that name in there. Now, as soon as I click off that field, you'll see these automatically change. So I'm just going to hit the tab key. And now it's set up as everything as 100%. So what it's doing is it's looking at our, cancel it here. What it's pulling from is your guys' VMID file. So it's going to be looking at these numbers right here, and right here, as well as your spindle. This one, the spindle is, Greg, you may have
go to the drive unit.
So our spindle is 20,000 RPM.
Yep.
So it's going to pull all the numbers right off of your VMID file. So you will no longer get those feed too large or spin too large if you're using a different post and whatnot. Now, where this really comes into factor, it's not so much on the milling side of things, but when you guys get into mill turn, you guys can have multiple different live tooling in your turrets. And maybe the upper turret can support a live tooling that can spin up to 10,000 RPM, and maybe a different turret that can only go to 8,000 RPM. That's where this really comes into factor as well, because it can look at all the different stations that you have in here, and based off of when you are picking your main turret or your sub turret, or sorry, your main spindle or your sub spindle or your upper turret or your lower turret, it's going to look in your VMID file and pull all those numbers in there for you. Did I explain that right, Greg? Or did I explain it where it makes sense?
Yeah, absolutely. For example, for anybody that has like a Mazak Integrex style machine, where you have the B-axis milling head on top, which has a much more powerful spindle than what you typically get with a live tooling turret. Usually those live tools on a turret are very low in horsepower, whereas you get a real milling spindle on that B-axis head. So this will allow you to get the most optimum speeds and feeds out of iMachining for both cases.
Yeah, perfect. Now, since we're kind of going along that lines of adding in our iMachining database to link it to the post, let's say that you have 50 different machines in there and you really don't want to have to go through and come in here and create 50 new iMachining ones and having to retype it all in there. What you can do is we can come in here, say new machine, And instead of typing in the machine, what you can type in is global space machine, and whatever, whatever is in there will automatically pull from that VMID file as well. Okay. So what it's going to do is it's going to look at exactly what we're doing there, but if we have multiple, you know, Ronnie's got 60 different posts in there, he's not going to want to create 60 different defined by VMID machines that are in there. So you guys can go in there and just type in global machine, and it will pull those values in there as well.
And the nice thing about that is your global is pulling at 100%, or you can set it to where all the values are going at 100%, but you can identify specific instances of machines and really play with those numbers to get the cuts that you want. So if you want to tone down your max spindle speed on the Hawk UMC 750, but you don't want to adjust that on any other machine, you can still set that individually.
Yep.
So really tailoring it to the machine that you're using.
Yeah, great point. Any questions with how the new iMachine database and linking it to your VMID file for your post? All right. Now, another one that I would like to show you guys is we all often get the question, iMachining is very long in G-code, which it is because we're constantly monitoring the angle of engagement, and it's doing a lot of arc moves in there. Well, we can get that that changed in there by decreasing the arc fitting tolerance. So what I mean by that is, let me just go in here and I'm going to do a G code. And we'll go back and forth and kind of show you the difference. This really works good for your guys' machines that have a limited memory. Any day now. There we go. So I'm just going to slide this over here for right now. Now, where this is located, open up the operation here. Is under your miscellaneous parameters, and now you have a arc tolerance, which is in our beta. So right now it's set to 8 thou, and let's go ahead and show that toolpath real quick. And let me zoom in to what's going on right there. And let's turn off our disable preview. And we'll go top view. Okay, so now I can come in here to our miscellaneous parameters, change that 8 thou to, let's just go something big. Let's do 0.5. Save and calculate. Now you can see our lines aren't as nice and smooth arcing anymore, but you will still get the same results. It's just not having a very high tolerance set up for your arcing. So arcing on and arcing off is definitely where you're going to see it, as well as any external arcs going on like that. So let's go ahead and do that for each one. And we'll do 0.5. Last one here. And turn this to 0.5. Okay, so you can calculate. So I could have done this a lot easier and just did one operation to compare it. All right, so let's go ahead and generate now. So I have our original G code over here, which is, oh no, I don't have line numbers.
I was going to say, we're going to take a poll in the chat here, see if you might want to use a block number counting text editor in the future.
Yeah, I have it on the other computer. Oh,
What you may be able to do, Kevin, if the other editor is not something that you can pull up, is you can take a look at the scroll bar, because they should be significantly different.
well, isn't this line number 52,890? Okay.
There you go.
So now, if I scroll down to the bottom here, we have 47,157. So it reduced our G code down significantly just by turning that tolerance up. And like I said, if we come in here, you can kind of see we're not getting those nice smooth arcs in here anymore. They're a little bit more jagged, but your end result will still get you exactly what you're looking for in there. Because the biggest thing that we're looking for is our finish pass to make sure that we're getting our finish cut is cutting up to size. So does that make sense for everyone?
Not seeing anything in the questions panel. Why did you choose the numbers that you did? Was that purely for demonstration purposes?
Yeah,
or
just shooting out random numbers. So, and that's one where you guys would have to play with to see what's a sweet spot for, you know, if you guys aren't worried about memory on your machine, I would definitely not even bother changing that up. But if memory is limited on your machine, you definitely have the ability to go in there and change that to something a little bit different for you. Okay.
Now, when you start adjusting the tolerances, that does change the cutting angle too, right?
Yes. Yep. So we're not going to be like.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Open up the operation here. And let's turn off all that and let's go for this one right here. So let's see real quick here. No, it's not pulling. I guess where are you going, Greg? Or go down the wrong hole?
Just to let people know that by changing the tolerance, you're also changing the tolerance on the cutting angle engagement. So if you're cutting something that is very tough and you're pushing it to the limits on the cutting angle, by changing that tolerance, you may actually exceed that cutting angle.
Yeah.
So be careful in that regard.
Yeah, absolutely. Any harder materials, like Greg is saying, you know, you get into the softer materials, you shouldn't see any difference at all. But like exactly what you're saying here, Greg, it's we like to run things. We like to push our tools to the absolute limit. So this is something that if you're trying to push your tool to the absolute limit and you're in a time crunch, don't keep that that miscellaneous parameter for the tolerance down at the default, just so you're not over engaging that tool.
Right. But if you do have softer material and you increase that cutting angle tolerance, could you get less code out of the final process?
Yeah. So let's.
And then while that's calculating, Edwin had a question about whether or not this will increase or decrease the chatter that you may get from the tool.
This would probably increase if you had chatter in there. I would assume it would probably increase the chatter just because we're not doing those nice smooth arcs anymore, arcing into the material, arcing off. It's going to be more of a random angle that's going on in there. Let's go, I don't know, what do you think, 25? Go something big?
That is huge, but yeah, that should give us a very visible difference between the two paths.
You got this one. All right, so here is our new one on the left. And our old one, let's go down to the bottom. So we have 16,000 lines versus 15,000 lines. So about 1,000 less lines of G-code by changing up that tolerance. So it's not something huge that you'll see, but it is definitely something that will help out and be a little bit smaller in file size for your machines as well. Okay. All right. Any questions on that one?
Real quick, can you go to your motion control?
Sure, right after I close out of the operation.
I was waiting for the mouse to click before I said something. Take off the approximate arcs by lines tolerance. Now G-code it.
Well, this is generate G-code. Do you want to explain what that's doing?
Well, the arcs by lines is converting all your arc movements into line segments. So even with the arc fitting, we weren't getting true arc values. I was looking at your posted code. I wasn't seeing a lot of G2s, G3s,
No.
which we are now. And you can tell that we just shaved off about 33% of that program.
Yep.
Just by making that change.
So there's a couple great variables for you guys that are looking to decrease the code. Turn on your approximate arcs by lines, as well as changing up your tolerancing for your cut angle tolerance, as well as your fit arc tolerance. So, anything else? Okay.
Not saying anything in the questions panel.
So
we're doing all right.
The last thing I have to show you guys is in the 3D iMachining. So you can see we got our toolpath here. Now, they've added in there you 3D iMachining, a lot of it's still the same in there, but if you guys go down to the technology, and now we can have the option to turn on the max cutting angle. Now in softer materials, we definitely don't recommend going over the 80, but maybe on this part, the max cutting angle we want to get to is maybe 50 degrees now instead of 80. Set up per, you you guys know your machines better than we ever would. Even if we have two identical machines, one might be a little older or a little bit loose. So you can come in here and now we can change up our max cutting angle. So right now, oops, we are set up for 80 degrees. Let's get this part. And let's switch this over to 45 degrees. So what it's going to do is it's going to look at what material that we're cutting and automatically put those values in there for you. Now you can see that we changed it over to 45 degrees. We have a lot more tool path going in there. So you have the option now to change this very quickly instead of having to go through and either tweak up your material or going into the technology wizard and the miscellaneous parameters and changing it in there.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong here, Kevin, but on the rest rough step up, setting that max cutting angle, that's going to increase the cutting angle as the axial depth of cut goes down?
Correct.
Okay.
So with each higher step up, iMachining automatically, yeah, it's pretty much saying exactly what you're saying, increases the cutting angle as the axial depth of cut gets smaller. So now anytime that you're running a harder material, it's going to be at 45 and you can change that value, or any softer material. So if I come over here now and let's grab tool steel, save and calculate here. Go to my tech. Need that good theme song music playing right now. Do, 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 do.
Break out your elevator hits mixtape.
Yeah. Definitely doing a lot of thinking on this part because I can hear the computer fans kicking in. So now, if we go to our technology, you'll see that it's automatically set to 45. But like I said, you do have the option to go smaller or larger now very easily and quickly to come just right to your technology page. So definitely lets you override the default values very quickly now. And then this was another customer suggestion. Go ahead, Greg.
And while you got it there, you can kind of see the difference between your max cutting angle for the rest rough step up compared to what I'm guessing Kevin's going to go into next. But the max cutting angle for this operation is going to be that 34.9 that you saw below.
Yep, right here.
So this is kind of like a adaptive step up, if you will.
Much better way of putting it than I did. Yeah, so we're at our 34 degrees here, but the step up for the rest machining as it's coming up the curve, up our step up, which is this right here, is going to, you can set a different angle now. that is it for the what's new for iMachining. Any questions from anybody? No, we went a little bit over on our time, but definitely, if you guys have questions, now is the time to ask. And for those of you that are watching this on YouTube, if you guys do have questions, my email address is in the description of the video below. So definitely let us know, or let myself know if you guys do have questions. Here to help you go out in any way possible. One thing I did forget to mention last week, and this is actually quite big, is every one of you guys in here tonight should have gotten that email where the Corona, we're here to help you guys out in any way possible. I want to stress that if you guys are working from home and need a license to be able to work from home, let myself know or let your account manager know, and we will get you a 60-day product key, no strings attached, that will have everything turned on for you. So as we're going through this uncertain times of what's going on in the world today, definitely a way to help you guys out, as well as the live SolidCAM live every day at 2 p.m. Eastern to help you guys out. So, if there is other stuff that we can do to help you guys out, just let us know. We've been doing a lot of work with, for those guys may know, the Montana mask guys. So that mold has been going out like crazy to other shops. So just let us know how we can be there to help you guys out through this. So, all right, I'll stop yapping and just want to thank everyone for joining the night class tonight, and thank you for the attendance, and love seeing all these new names in here and the questions. So next week we will be covering the what's new in HSR. So some pretty new, great stuff that they've added in there, and we'll try to get that all fit in, but we'll see what we can get all in there for you guys. So, all right, guys, have a great, wonderful rest of your night, and we will see you guys next Tuesday night. Bye-bye now.
All right, good night, everybody.